Hey guys. This is part 5 of What If Naruto Was Feared and Respected. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start. Chapter 18, Come Undone. That's a bit too fucking pretty for me, the shadow said as she twirled her hand in the water of the pool. Kuratsuchi was not sure why it was not obvious to the shade. But it makes sense, doesn't it? She had explained Naruto's description of people and meaning she had heard a week before. After she had taken the break the blonde had suggested, Kuratsuchi had decided to face the shadow once again. She had been hoping it would be a matter of simple persuasion this time around. But she was starting to get accustomed to being wrong. The shadow shrugged. Maybe, but it sounds like it's full of holes. What holes? You're not being fair at all about this. The shade rolled her eyes. Since when have I been fair? Since when has life been fair, dumbass? Is it still wrong to wish for such things? To plead for the world to be a little merciful, sometimes? The shadow's smile was reminiscent of a blade, sharp and unwavering. Wishful thinking. That's all you ever preach about. Does Naruto have wishful thinking? Kuratsuchi's question was raised vociferously, and wiped the shadow's smile away. It made the air feel even more dense with the mist sinking into it. Because he's shown us so much more than that. He's proven his beliefs through experience, and that sounds good enough to me, the shadow scowled. Can you make proper judgments based off mere experiences? Fuck no, Kuratsuchi narrowed her eyes in disgust. It's better than how you reason, if you can call it that. The shade shook her head in disillusionment. How could she not see it? The shadow was trying so hard to make Kuratsuchi realize the truth. She was becoming more irritated with every pressing word and her patience was thinning. Look, it seems your poor views are blinding you from my intentions. Naruto just can't see what we can, that's all. To him, the world is full of pretty sparkles and friendship, which is perfectly fine for him. But both of those views can't be true. That defies all reason. Truth is not subjective, and to think that is missing the point. Either reality is like how Naruto says it is or it is not. Otherwise, both views would contradict itself. Reality is not a contradiction. The shadow sighed in great annoyance. She could feel herself breaking from her growing anger. Very well. Reality is not like how Naruto describes it to be. But my purpose is not to persuade Naruto. It is to persuade you. I'm trying to fucking help you by showing you the truth and the proper action to take with the only possible conclusion. The shade hoped for that to seal the deal, or at least make Kuratsuchi calm down. Of course, it did not. Kuratsuchi was too stubborn for that, just like the shadow. You're talking about purpose, but based off your very philosophy, there is no meaning and no purpose. You have no logic and no consistency, damn it. That's not the fucking point. If there ever was any calm rationality in the conversation between Kuratsuchi and her darker self, it was eradicated at that moment. I thought there is no fucking point. Kuratsuchi roared. God, I hate you. It's like talking to a child who doesn't understand simple logic. Well, guess what? I'm you. So you just called yourself a fucking child. Kuratsuchi could practically feel her teeth snapping from how much force she was exuding from her tightened jaw. She knew both of their tempers were raising to dangerous levels, but she could no longer contain herself. I'm nothing like you, you bitch. I know when I'm making some sense. I know what it's like to be loved by someone. No one has ever loved you, and that's why you're so damn gloomy and emotional. You're so terrible and no one will ever love you. The shadow stood up from her place on the water and her hands were balled. Her dark frame shook from the sheer fury she was undergoing. She shouted at Kuratsuchi. You don't fucking get it, do you? I'm the only one who looks out for your best interests. Instead of appreciation, all I ever get is your shitty attitude. Kuratsuchi stood up and roared with equal ferocity. You're nothing but a slimy monster filled with emotion and unreasonable behaviors. You don't care about me one bit. All you do is insult me and spout contradictions about our fucked up relationship. I can't believe that you're me because you're nothing like me, the shadow scoffed in outrage. I am you, dumbass. We're the same entity with the same fucking thoughts and emotions. This whole ordeal has been about me making you realize that. You still separate us, and that's why you can't break free. You're so pathetic that you need Naruto to think for you and you just believe everything he tells you without testing it first. Kuratsuchi rolled her eyes and her mouth screamed out sardonically. Oh, because you're so good at testing your beliefs. I'll just take your word for it then. The shadow's jaw was ajar and the rage was practically tangible. Veins popped from her neck and spit rattled from her lips. Fuck you! You ungrateful bitch! Helping you is pointless, just like everything else. You're so fucking depressing. No wonder no one loves you! Kuratsuchi forgot she was talking to herself. The illusion of the falls was supposed to do that. Everyone hates you and wants you gone, you miserable cunt. That did it. It was not surprising that after that insult, fighting ensued between the two of them. There was no dodging or cancelled out attacks this time, either. Both wanted to feel pain and the joy of striking something. They allowed themselves to be hit, slapped, violated, mutilated, and shamed through violence. There was hair pulling, breaking of nails, gnashing of teeth, smashing of bones, and blood spilled. Ninjutsu was used and both parties utilized their lava release. Of course, because their techniques were only in a spiritual form and not a physical one, there were no actual injuries. The falls created the illusions of the injuries to make up for the feeling because the agony was still there. It was all there like the emotions. In the end, Kuratsuchi and the shadow finally collapsed from the pain of it all. They could not handle the duel any longer, and there was no clear victor between them. The fight had been futile in nature, but both were glad they had done it. They did not want to regret anymore. She did not want to regret anymore. For a time, there was just heavy breathing and the exchange of scornful glares. Kuratsuchi's tired voice was the first to break through the gasps. I hate you. I hate you so much. The shadow allowed her eyes to fix on the water underneath her. There was no reflection there, and that was why she struggled. She struggled to know who she was, but there was nothing there. There never was. I know. I know you do. Kuratsuchi still did not understand. She did not know anything anymore. Then why do you hurt me so much? Because you need it. We can't grow unless I hurt you because we need to be released. There was sadness in the shadow's face and Kuratsuchi could not comprehend what she was witnessing. It should have been impossible to see such a sight. Kuratsuchi needed to know. What do you mean by that? What is this release? A small, humorless chuckle left the shadow's mouth and she put her hands into the water before her. She could not look at her counterpart. You're so fucking stupid. Her words did not sound harsh but were actually feeble. She was so feeble. Death is the release. The epiphany finally came. It struck Kuratsuchi harder than any of the earlier punches had. It was so simple and was the only way. She stated it without doubt, suicide. The shadow would not stop staring at the pool and only nodded at the correct answer. Please, release me for once and for all. There is no point in living in a world with no meaning. Kuratsuchi was on her hands and knees. They were damp with the spray of the water and the mist. Her face had lost all warmth. There was no longer any warmth left. Kuratsuchi could not accept it. Has your hopelessness taken you so far? Have you been so dejected that you don't want to exist anymore? The shadow blanched at her darker self's words. Yes, that's what I've been trying to get across to you. It's not my fucking fault you're so dense. Kuratsuchi knew it was all clear now. The mist was filtering away from the area now, and she saw it all. So when I hesitated before Junko, the shade's voice was monotone, and it no longer sounded like herself. You were relating with her intentions. You had a dark thought that wanted what she wanted. You were looking out for her by letting her escape from all this meaningless pain. You wanted her to die. That was how I was brought about because of that doubt. I am your doubt and hesitation. I am the one who no longer wants us to exist. I am your shadow, Kuratsuchi. Kuratsuchi heard a vehement buzzing in her ears. It was cacophonous, and made her clutch her head in agony. She wanted to die. That was what this was all about. But she wanted to live. Or was that just a lie she told herself? Naruto hated when people lied to themselves, though. Naruto would not love her if he knew. Naruto was the only reason she was alive, was he not? The shadow heard her thoughts because they were the same person. Yes, he is the only reason that is stopping us. It's pretty fucking morbid, isn't it? Kuratsuchi's eyes were wide and her heart was exhausted. She felt so worthless. That's reality, I guess. Suicide can be the only solution if your thinking is correct. The shadow did not say anything to that. Kuratsuchi did not know why she kept talking. It was all pointless, after all. The world holds nothing for me anymore, and that means there is no reason for me to be in it. The shadow sank into the water. She submerged herself until there was only her head above the surface. Exactly. Now release us. Please, I can't stand the pain anymore. To be honest, I never really could. When Kuratsuchi opened her eyes that day, she did not know what to feel. She had gone to the pool alone that morning. She only knew what she knew, and that was a heavy burden to carry. She hoisted it on her shoulders and walked away from the pool to find a place to rest, a quiet place. She did not know where to go, and she could not understand where she was. She supposed that was good enough. Kuratsuchi fell to the ground and leaned against a convenient tree. She let herself relax and tried to admire the spring day. There were flowers and berries in the foliage around her with little birds and creatures playing about. There was life everywhere, and the season was buoyant because of it. The lingering scent of fruit and delicate mint hit her tongue, and she was rewarded with the sense of wonder. She did not deserve any of it. Kuratsuchi put her hand by her hip and fished out the necessary tool from her pouch. The black metal glittered in the sun's rays that poked from the tree canopy above her. Kuratsuchi held the kunai carefully, at first. It was not long until she was practically squeezing it. The edge of the blade was razor thin and would cut through flesh in an instant. Kuratsuchi could see her reflection in the metal, and she wondered why she looked so sad. The image was blotted out by fat tears as Kuratsuchi began to sob. The shadow wrapped her fingers through her mind and told her to do it. It was best not to think too much about it and just let it happen. Kuratsuchi held the kunai in front of her. She aimed the tip at her throat and held it in place. All she had to do was to pull her muscles one more time, and it would be over forever. She could escape reality and leave the pain all behind. No more suffering, no more emotion, no more joy, no more Mitsui, no more Naruto, and no more Kuratsuchi. There was still doubt, nevertheless. What if there was an existence after this one? What if that existence was worse than this current one? What if it was better? At least, she vaguely understood this reality. The one that may or may not exist was completely unknown to her. Was this the best choice? No, it was the only choice. She was going to do it. She would end it all right here. The point of the kunai inched closer and closer until it stopped. But the blonde thread held her back. It stopped her from making the horrible mistake. The thread stirred hope in her and spoke of only finer things. For once, her hesitation was helping her. There was just too much to live for. She still wanted to know what it felt like to be old, what it meant to marry and love another, what it felt like to raise a child, and what the future held. That was what hope did. It made a person wonder and yearn for what was to come. Hope was an old friend to Kuratsuchi. It was the friend that never asked anything from her but had always been there in her darkest times. Could she just throw everything it ever did for her aside like that? She knew that when she hated the shadow, she was also saying she hated herself. And that meant she hated Hope too, but she could not keep doing that anymore. To hate Hope was to hate Naruto because the blonde instilled that hope. He was practically the embodiment of the concept, and she could not give up on him because he never gave up on her. She was so tired of hesitating and doubting. That was it, she told herself. She made her decision there. She would be thankful for Hope. She would be thankful for Naruto. Kuratsuchi discarded the kunai and wept into her hands. She had almost done it, and regretted ever thinking of doing it. How dare she have the audacity to throw away the gift of life and be ungrateful of it? The act was not to be taken lightly as she had done from wishing to act off mere impulse. Still, she felt the shadow boil at her cowardice. She pushed it aside and stood up from her seat by the tree. She wanted to see the creator of the thread. Naruto was scrawling away on a scroll when Kuratsuchi found him several minutes later with his back against a large tree trunk. He had actually not been that far away from her. He was alone and seemed to be in deep concentration with what he was writing. She got close and stood in front of him. She knew he was aware of her presence without him having to look up at her. Kuratsuchi spoke to him over the gentle sounds of his pen scratching. Report or novel? Her explanation of the day's events could wait. Naruto stopped writing and looked up at her. His eyes peeked out from under his bangs. For some unknown reason to her, she could not get an accurate read on his expression. Novel. Actually, you might be able to help me. I'm having trouble making the heroines seem realistic. I don't know a ton about women, you know? Could you give me a proper feminine response to some of the situations? Kuratsuchi coiffed her hair over to the side. Her eyes were foggy and far away. She kept her voice level. Sure, I can do that. Naruto nodded and looked to his paper. All right. So the hero is struggling with depression because he feels that he's not good enough. I've been making the heroine rather perceptive of his situation. Do you think that's a good idea? Kuratsuchi's expression was stoic and light as she answered him. That sounds good to me. Naruto grunted with acknowledgement. All right. I'll make it so that she confronts him about it. When I do that, would it make sense if she was aggressive about it? Kuratsuchi was a little shocked that Naruto's perception was not on point currently. Normally, he would see right through her, and she thought she appeared to be obviously going through something. Nonetheless, Naruto seemed to be completely undisturbed about her distant demeanor. She must have assumed too much of him. That happened when someone was in love. Yet, it wouldn't be weird if a girl did that, especially if she was concerned for him. Excellent, I was having some ideas about what their meeting will be like. I want him to have hit rock bottom, you know? He needs to be in some sort of unfortunate circumstance that really illustrates his destitution. I've been raking my brain to decide on one. Despite her earlier ordeals, Kuratsuchi felt herself particularly intrigued by Naruto's story. She leaned a little forward and moved her head to the side. Well, what are some of your ideas? Naruto brushed his bangs to the side and his voice became serious. I was thinking that she could walk in on him trying to stab himself. Kuratsuchi's eyes widened and her heart skipped over itself. No way, she thought. There was a knowing glint in Naruto's cerulean eyes. Do you think it would be best if she stopped him, or if she allowed him to make his own decision? Kuratsuchi could not believe that she underestimated him. She was embarrassed and a tad frustrated, but above all, she was relieved. She allowed a small smile to form on her lips. She should intervene. Naruto's glint got brighter. What if she trusts his intuition? What if she believes he knows better? Kuratsuchi was probably enjoying this a bit too much than she should have been, but the blonde was just so good at dragging people into his antics. Does she really think that she knows him so well? Naruto smiled at that one and the glint transferred over to its brilliance. Yes, she does. She cares a lot about him, after all. Kuratsuchi wanted to laugh at that. She wanted to so badly because the whole conversation was humorous, but the situation was grim. It was so ludicrous that she wanted to laugh. Instead, why was she crying? She could not hold it in any longer. Naruto knew, and that made matters easier. She choked out the words in between the tears. Why didn't you stop me? Naruto dropped the pen and scrolled to embrace her. She buried her face into his expansive chest and allowed herself to enjoy it. She felt an unbelievable amount of comfort from the gesture. Naruto wrapped his normal hand around the back of her neck and rubbed her back gently with his bandaged one. If Kuratsuchi was not so emotional, she probably would have been confounded by the embrace. She was emotional, however, and grateful beyond words. Naruto kept his embrace tight yet tender. Believe me, I was about to. I was almost ready to jump out and destroy that kunai. But I knew you would stop. Kuratsuchi shook her head, making her dig deeper into his torso. Her voice was muffled but still cognizant. How could you possibly know that? Naruto grinned as he rested the bottom of his jaw on the top of her head. I just did. Just like I knew what the shadow meant by release. Kuratsuchi removed her head from his torso and looked up at him. You did? Naruto nodded when he dropped his hand from her neck. Yes. Despite my upbeat attitude, I've gone through some depressing ordeals in my time too. When Nagato attacked Konoha and I thought he had killed my friend, Hinata, I had almost given in to my depravity. However, that doesn't equate our experiences with such things. Your experience is vastly different from my own and I acknowledge that. That's why I couldn't interfere unless it was completely necessary. You needed to learn it by yourself. Believe me, it killed me to watch you almost do it. But I knew you wouldn't do it. I know you and you would never go through with it. Kuratsuchi felt more tears brimming on the edge of her eyes and she released them wholeheartedly. She had no idea how strong his trust in her was. She did not mind he saw her in such an emotional state. He was trustworthy and that was enough. Thank you, Naruto. Thank you so much. They held each other well into the afternoon. At some point, Kuratsuchi has asked about the whereabouts of Mitsui and Naruto had said she was with Killer Bee. After some time passed, the two shinobi had eventually retired to laying on the ground. When the excitement of the moment had left, they released their holds and began talking. Kuratsuchi pushed Naruto's bangs away from his eyes. You need a haircut, hero. Naruto smirked and combed his hair with his fingers. Yeah, you're probably right. Naruto took a moment to admire the beautiful woman in front of him. He was enamored by everything about her. Before he could stop himself, his affections were becoming fabricated. You know what's something that I love about you? Kuratsuchi was a little bewildered by that, and her blood surged. The angle of her face tilted downward because she could not look at him in the eye. What? Naruto smiled as his compliment slipped out. I love your eyes. They remind me of a rose. Kuratsuchi had heard another boy say that to her when she was a teenager. He had just been trying to sleep with her then, but this time she knew it was sincere. Naruto was always sincere. A rose right before its color has matured and it's left to dwell in its existence. It's not a true rose just yet, but it doesn't need to be because its confidence in itself is what makes it worthy to be called a rose. I think a rose is the most beautiful in that moment. Kuratsuchi blushed and tried not to stammer. Well, thank you, Naruto. That's very sweet. She felt inclined to compliment his own eyes, but she supposed it would seem like it was only out of obligation if she did. She wanted to enjoy this moment longer, but the shadow intervened. She always did, it seemed. Her dark counterpart was getting in the way too much, and it was time for her to go. But that was not right. Kuratsuchi needed to accept the shadow, and in order to do that, she needed to. Naruto? The blonde locked eyes with hers and curiosity was present there. What? I think I know how to handle the shadow now. I need to go to the falls right now. It was there. The solution had been right in front of her for so long. She just did not want to accept it until now. Naruto glanced to the western horizon where the sun was setting. It's getting kind of late. Shouldn't we wait until tomorrow? Kuratsuchi stood up quickly. No, we have to go now. I need to get this over with. She clutched Naruto's hand and they ran towards the direction of the Falls of Truth for, hopefully, the final time. Sakura loved the moment right after the sun set in its daily course. The moment where the light faded only for smaller dots of light to pop out in the velvet of the night sky. It was a pristine moment that could only be fully appreciated for a minute or two. Sakura had surmised long ago if it lasted any longer, then it would not have been nearly as lovely. It was another reason why her balcony was her favorite place to be. As Sakura cherished the natural light's dance, Sasuke emerged from inside the apartment and met her on the balcony. He was dressed in casual clothes she had helped pick out for him the other day. He was holding 2 cups of steaming tea and handed one of them to Sakura. She accepted it gratefully with a wordless thank you. Sasuke focused his eyes on the dimly lit horizon. Do you suppose that our favorite blonde is admiring the same sunset? Sakura giggled and smirked. Naruto? Appreciating a sunset? Are you joking? Sasuke kept his face stationary. There was a time where I would have agreed with you. But our old teammate has grown considerably over the years. Sasuke blinked. I'm surprised you didn't already figure that out. You've spent a far longer amount of time with him than I. Sakura's expression changed to a bittersweet smile. It was as if she just tasted something she was not sure if she enjoyed or not. You're right. I guess I don't really know him then. Sasuke turned his head to the side. No, you do? You simply choose to be ignorant of him because you're scared to be close to him. Sakura closed her eyes and felt his words twist through her. Her boyfriend was the epitome of perception, and she marveled at his abilities. She sighed and stared farther away from herself. Is that such a bad thing? I'm just being careful. You don't need to be anymore. She liked that. She showed how much she did by kissing him. After the kiss, she took a sip of her tea. The tea's good. Sasuke smirked and leaned against the railing. I'm sorry I can be so dauntless with my words. Kunoichi shrugged and took another swig of her warm drink. It's all right. I've chosen to love you, so it works itself out most of the time. Sasuke remained quiet until the stars started to multiply in the sky. I miss him. Sakura closed her eyes for a second. I miss him too. He's pretty amazing, huh? Indeed. His personality is unlike any other. Of course, it would need to be in order for him to have accomplished all that he did. There's a part of me that wants to worry about him, but I know that he would hate that, Sakura said. He prefers people thinking the best of him. Sasuke drank the rest of his tea. Probably because he does the same thing for everyone else. Sakura grinned at that, and felt her eyes get hot. Her vision of Naruto was probably a tad glorified, but the man had done more than enough to deserve it. How do you think he's doing? Sasuke allowed a thick thought to pass through him. It was laden with emotion and nostalgic memory. He saw a blond boy running around trying to find the shiny pebbles among the dull rubble. When the boy found the gem he was searching for, he announced his ability to treasure it, and that he would do so forever. His proclamation reverberated through the hearts of everyone who heard it, and the boy made sure that was truly everyone. Sasuke smiled and looked over to his lover with starry eyes. I'm sure he is just fine, Sasuke said. The falls welcomed her this time because it knew. It knew why she was here, and this would be the last time it would need to practice its power for her. The falls tried to present itself as ominous and powerful, but it was too ancient and drained to continue to do that. It always wanted what was best for the user, and it cherished them as much as it was able. Kuratsuchi could not hate it for that reason. She knew its intentions and thanked it from the bottom of her heart. She silently asked for its illusion one more time. The waterfall was happy to oblige. Kuratsuchi looked back and saw Naruto nodding with a calm demeanor. He was confident she could do this, and he transferred said confidence to her. The last sight Kuratsuchi witnessed before she closed her eyes and beheld the shadow was a dazzling grin from the unpredictable blonde. When the shadow exited the screen of water, Kuratsuchi knew this was going to be the most painful encounter. This one was going to hurt. The shadow scowled at her, and the sound of teeth grating bounced throughout the pool. You fucking coward! Kuratsuchi sat still and kept calm. She did not need to fake it this time, either. You're right. I constantly cower from things because I'm scared of the outcome. I am a coward. The shadow took a step back from that response. Stop acting so pretentious. That shit won't work on me. I know what you're trying to do. You think I'll simply stand aside and let you conquer me so easily? Fuck that. Kuratsuchi's eyelids lowered and there was pity in her pink eyes. I've been going about all of this the wrong way. I thought I needed to control you and make you submit, but that's not how it works, is it? You got that shit right. I don't surrender to anyone. Kuratsuchi was unfazed by that comment and continued as if nothing was uttered. But you've been trying to do the same thing all along, trying to make me submit to your faux authority. I almost did it too. I almost gave in and did what you wanted. No, what I wanted. The shadow was shaking again, but not with anger. So you think you fucking figured it out, huh? Well, congratulations, bitch. I suppose you'd like a medal for your efforts? You hide behind your sarcasm. Kuratsuchi's observation made the shadow stagger. I know this because I do the same. The shadow deepened her scowl and her anger rose. So fucking what? You think that calm shit is going to work? You're not a fucking sage. Kuratsuchi smirked a bit. You got me there. So why did you come if not to conquer me? Kuratsuchi did not answer her question, at least directly. Instead, she went to the heart of the matter. She lowered her head and was solemn. I'm sorry I let you go through that. I didn't know you were hurting too. The shadow's eyes glared at her like daggers. Shut up. This whole time I've been hating you because I hate myself. I forgot that you're not just the embodiment of my negativity and animosity, but also of my sadness. You are the manifestation of my pain. The shadow was not looking at her anymore. She was staring at the water and seeing no reflection. She was loathing the fact that she could not see it. It was because it was right in front of her, manifested in her other half. Shut up. Kuratsuchi did not stop. You were there through all of it. You didn't want Junko to die and you didn't want to stop your search for meaning. I'm so sorry. The shadow's tears were not black like Kuratsuchi had thought they would be. They were clear like normal ones. She began to cry with her other half. Shut the fuck up. You know nothing. It hurts so much, and you don't fucking know it. The shadow fell to her knees and clutched her stomach. Kuratsuchi's voice rose higher, past all of the turmoil set before her. It was all so clear now. But that's not what hurt the most, right? Naruto's pain did that. When he pretended like he could handle his suffering, it broke us. The shadow was grimacing and brought her hands to her sodden locks. She fought against the aching headache that erupted from her mind, her very soul. The pain was so unbearable. It was so bad when he said he needed us. When he smiled like that, we couldn't take it. We were hurting so much. We thought he loved us back, and then he told us it was just a mistake. Why? Why does the world make us suffer? How can there be meaning in that pain? Kuratsuchi's eyes stung through the tears. She felt it. She felt all of it. I'm sorry. You don't need to fight anymore. I accept you now. You fought so hard for us and I wasn't thankful for that. Although I am now. You did a great job. I don't hate you. I'm so sorry I ever did. Kuratsuchi rose from where she sat and walked over to her shadow. She embraced her and held her close. The shadow did not stop her and cried into her shoulder. I love you, Kuratsuchi said. The shadow sobbed harder and harder until there was nothing left. No more pride. No more anger. No more hatred. I love you too. It was all gone and something else rose to take its place. I'm sorry. The shadow's eyes changed from blood red to the cool shade of pink they always should have been. Her scarab brightened to the standard white. The hatred leaked away and so did the strife. She was no longer a shadow. She was Kuratsuchi. So what now? The other half stated. I don't want to go away. I don't want to leave you. Kuratsuchi rubbed her other half's back warmly, and then released her. Their identical eyes met, and they were reminded of who they were. You don't have to. You just become me because you are me. The mist came then. Or at least, it seemed to. It was more accurate to say Kuratsuchi's other half became the mist. She was a part of the kunoichi now and forever. The falls stopped the illusion of separation and allowed them to join. There was only love and acceptance now. Kuratsuchi did not think, did not know, and did not believe. Instead, she felt. As she watched her other half fade away into her mind, she saw something bloom out of the water. It was a pink rose that had not reached maturity yet. Kuratsuchi smiled tenderly at the delicate flower. It was a gift from the falls. There was meaning in that rose. There was a reason for its existence. Her heart was warm now. Kuratsuchi was no longer held down by herself. She was allowed to roam through her journeys and desires without worry. She was one with herself. She loved herself and found life to be a wondrous gift. She found hope and clung to it. She was no longer a shadow, and there was no need for there to ever be one again. Kuratsuchi was glad for that. The falls were glad too. Chapter 19. The Finer Intricacies of the Beloved. Mitsui never knew such beauty was attainable. The sun-kissed coasts of Mizu no Kuni's mainland were comprised of gorgeous, sandy beaches and fresh foliage blooming around the vastness of the coastal trees. Mitsui marveled at the natural splendor of it all as she and her surrogate family members glided across the coastal trail. Her little, ice-blue eyes darted around the beach, trying to find her prize. Every now and then, she would see the sun hit a certain area of the sand and she would run out onto the beach to obtain her treasure. Mitsui felt the little fragments of coral in her hand and the cathartic texture of the dried organisms. They were the color of dull orange, and Mitsui had special plans for the pieces. Kuratsuchi would always fidget and worry whenever Mitsui ran towards the beach, but she always came back seconds later, holding her special findings. The way the child looked at the bits of sea rock reminded Kuratsuchi of when she did the same thing with shiny stones when she was a little girl in IWA. Mitsui looked up at Kuratsuchi, who was eyeing her, and beamed. The little girl watched the kunoichi's blossom-colored eyes shine with contentment at the smile. Mitsui loved the fact that Kuratsuchi would smile and look at her like that recently. Ever since the last time she had gone to the falls, her surrogate mother figure had been noticeably different. She smiled more, laughed more heartily, hugged more, and looked at Mitsui and Naruto more intensely than before. One night after some extreme training a few weeks back, Mitsui had even seen Naruto and Kuratsuchi sleeping next to each other. Even though Mitsui was young, she knew the intimacy behind such actions. When Mitsui had asked her later why she was acting so differently, Kuratsuchi had told her it was because she had learned to love herself. Mitsui still wondered what that meant, but she liked it. She liked it a lot. The three companions had stayed in Genbu for another month after Kuratsuchi had united with her other side. They then said farewell to their friends, Mota and Killer Bee. The dark-skinned Jinchuriki had not taken the parting well. He had cried and rapped out his goodbye, then rapped and cried some more afterwards. Naruto had managed to comfort him by the end, but everyone present knew the blonde had similar feelings about the departure. They had arrived in a northern port city on the mainland earlier that morning and were currently proceeding towards the heart of the country where the hidden village of Kiri was located. The path they were on wound along the coast and then turned sharply, heading directly towards inland. The three of them stopped for a moment at the curve of the road. Naruto pursed his lips and thought, "Well, it looks like it makes a beeline for Kiri from here, just like the guy at the dock said it would." Naruto had never been to the mainland of Mizu no Kuni and Mitsui had never even visited the archipelago before. Kuratsuchi had traveled to the islands once, however, but she had taken a different route to Kiri when she had been in the country. Kuratsuchi scanned the nearby area. "You think they would put a sign up or something so travelers could know for sure?" She put her hands on her hips in minor indignation. Naruto shrugged. "It's the only road around here, so it makes sense that there is no marker." Mitsui stared down the long path that seemed to venture straight ahead for miles, well beyond her field of sight. Suddenly, an odd phenomenon occurred before Mitsui's cool eyes and she questioned if she was misinterpreting her eyesight. It seemed to her vision that far down the path, a screen of fog floated gently across the clearing of the trail. From this considerable distance, it was hard to tell if it was not merely a trick of the light, but Mitsui could swear that whatever it was, it just did not fit. Finally, the three companions picked up their feet once again to continue their sojourn along the path. After about an hour of traveling along the trail, Mitsui realized she had been correct in her assumptions. The mist at Mizu no Kuni was famous for crept in through the surrounding forest. Mitsui knew of the mist, but it still did not align well with the atmosphere, not a natural way but a different one. It hung heavy on her soul and left her muddled. She looked over to Naruto to see what he thought about the current situation. His eyes were sharp and staring straight ahead. He had a confusing frown set on his features that was detailed with wariness. Mitsui felt her own caution rise at the uneasy feeling. She was not properly trained in sensing danger or knowing what to do in harmful situations, but she had the instinct in her gut that felt jeopardized by something. She was not sure if it stemmed from the mist exactly or from whatever unknown threats were hidden within it. The party kept moving through the mist, and because the dirt path was easy to distinguish from the forest around them, they did not have to worry about losing themselves. At least, that was their hope. Mitsui felt her heart thundering in her chest as her little eyes raced across her vision, trying to discern what was in front of her. The mist was cool, damp, and drastically different from the sunny atmosphere of the coast. Mitsui put her hand into her little pocket and fingered the bits of coral settled in there. She could not tell if it was day or night anymore. There was only mist. She felt her throat tighten as it felt like the mist was closing around, choking her. She kept one foot in front of the other and tried not to think of her slow suffocation from the fog. After several minutes of clouded vision, Naruto stopped in his tracks. I can't see anything out here. Hold on, guys. Give me just a sec. Naruto then sat down cross-legged and stayed completely still. Mitsui looked over to the blurred figure of Kuratsuchi. In the haziness of the mist, she could barely make out the kunoichi's troubled expression. After a few scant moments, Naruto's eyes changed into their sage mode appearance. He stood up and surveyed the area around him. Much better. He suddenly frowned in a serious manner. Just like I thought, it appears this mist is laden with chakra. Kuratsuchi's eyebrow rose. Really? I don't sense that. Naruto shook his head. That's because it's not just chakra. It's the natural mist of the land, but someone's infused their chakra with it to throw off our senses. It's just a strong enough amount to disrupt sensors while also not directly alarming regular shinobi. The technique requires a significant amount of control to pull off. Unless your intuition is amazing, you won't think there's anything wrong. Naruto flashed a small, proud smile. Of course, I can still sense nature chakra, even if it is a bit blurry. Kuratsuchi stepped forward and deepened her look of concern. Blurry? You mean your sensory skills aren't clear? Naruto rubbed the back of his neck sheepishly. Well, not perfectly. The chakra in the mist is having a slight effect on me. Naruto suddenly brought his hands up defensively. But it's not a big deal. Despite my worries, there doesn't seem to be anyone around. Kuratsuchi's eyes narrowed in scrutiny. How large is your field of sense right now? Naruto averted his eyes from her and fidgeted with his fingers, clearly giving away his predicament. 50 meters. That distance was roughly the equivalent to the skills of an amateur sensor. In normal conditions, Naruto had mastered his sensory skills to the distance of 30 kilometers if he focused hard enough. Kuratsuchi brought her hand up to scrunch the bridge of her nose in frustration. 100 meters. A slight effect? Naruto still did not look her in the eye. He was not a man that liked to identify his faults unequivocally, even if everyone around him was already aware of them. It's better than nothing, right? Kuratsuchi was about to give a saucy retort when Naruto's expression hardened in a split second. His sheepish look morphed into a protective scowl. His entire body stiffened in concentration and peak performance. I sense someone. Naruto formed his hands into a hand seal. A clone appeared next to him with the exact same expression. He's moving. Kuratsuchi, stay here with Mitsui. Kuratsuchi was in immediate unease as she saw the steeled eyes focus, and when Naruto raced off, her disquiet did not relent. The clone stayed with the two girls and Kuratsuchi appealed to him. What did he sense? She had difficulty in accurately differentiating Naruto from his clones, so she spoke of the original Naruto as separate from his clones. The clones usually did not mind. The clone's face was grim. Aggression. Not killing intent exactly, but more like pure hostility. Kuratsuchi swallowed. She did not like it one bit. She knew Naruto could take care of himself, but her agitation was strong at the moment. She wondered if it was an effect from the surrounding mist. This mist was nothing like the mist from the falls. That vapor had been welcoming and mysterious. This mist was cruel and angry. Kuratsuchi felt blind, and she was not only referring to her vision. The mist hung around them and was still as they waited for Naruto. The whole area was still. Time even seemed to be still. All was still. No one was certain if any time had passed because there was no sound, no feeling. There was only stillness. Then the mist moved, not like it naturally would either. It moved as if it was a living thing. All of a sudden, Naruto's clone brought his hands together and expelled a gigantic amount of chakra. He had sensed something and the mist was getting heavier, trying to dampen his senses. The amount of chakra that came forth from his body was so great the mist began to retreat from him. The original Naruto had made sure the clone had a large portion of chakra to protect his companions. Kuratsuchi gazed in awe at the potent chakra pushing away the mist, and then she saw them. 4 cloaked shadows with hoods suddenly broke from the forest and ran towards the clone. The clone ceased his technique and easily evaded a shuriken that was thrown at him. The clone had barely managed to sense the approaching foes. Kuratsuchi quickly brought out a kunai and stood protectively in front of Mitsui. Mitsui nervously brought up her hands in a rough taijutsu stance. She was not ready for an actual fight yet, Kuratsuchi surmised, as one of the hooded enemies noticed her and sprinted at her. Metal clashed against metal as Kuratsuchi's kunai was met by a crudely shaped knife. The knife was forged from a much darker metal than the standard kunai. Kuratsuchi felt sweat form around her brow when she saw a sickly, purple liquid drip from the knife. She felt heavy resistance on the other end of the knife, and she pushed back with great force. Kuratsuchi saw a sinister smile flash underneath the hood. For some reason or another, she knew it was a woman's smile. After one swift second, a great blue light shone on the both of them. Kuratsuchi's side glanced over to see the clone launching a giant spinning ball of chakra into one of the other hooded attackers. The hooded victim was thrown across the cleared path and spun into a tree, their clothes shredded and consciousness lost. The other two swiftly approached the clone while Kuratsuchi felt like she had enough of this madness. She took a deep breath to release a strong bullet of water from her mouth. However, the hooded kunoichi was quick. Very quick. She took a step back and darted to Kuratsuchi's left. Kuratsuchi spat out a water bullet at the circling foe. She then formed a quick tiger seal to increase the chakra in her attacks and boost her firing speed. Her mouth became reminiscent of a machine gun as it fired water projectiles rapidly at the evasive shinobi. The hooded kunoichi gracefully dodged the attacks and then beelined straight for Mitsui, her crude knife extended forth. Kuratsuchi flashed to her side. There was only time to do one thing. Mitsui barely had time to register what happened when she saw Kuratsuchi blocking her view of her attacker. Mitsui looked over her friend's side and saw the knife embedded to the hilt in Kuratsuchi's abdomen. The little girl stared in horror at the grisly sight. She heard a cackle from the hooded foe as she kept her grip strong on the knife. This was bad. Kuratsuchi winced and then cursed loudly from the pain. The poison burned in the wound and she struggled against the physical torment. Kuratsuchi saw red. She gritted her teeth as she sent a significant burst of raw, earth-natured chakra into her fist and threw it with all of her might at the hooded kunoichi. She could not dodge this time. Her fist easily pushed through the kunoichi's skull to meet the soft brain tissue underneath, and the bitch's head was sent flying. The knife exited Kuratsuchi's abdomen as the kunoichi's corpse fell back. The mangled body of the kunoichi dropped to the ground in a heap. Unfortunately, the kunoichi's grip on the knife was as tenacious as the bitch herself. After the blade left her body, Kuratsuchi covered her wound with her hand and buckled under the pain of the poison surging through her circulatory system. Blood was seeping out, and she looked over to see icy eyes bugging out. This was bad. Matters worsened when Kuratsuchi saw Naruto's clone was having difficulty with the remaining 2 ambushers. One was grappling with the clone and trying to reach his throat. But the attacker seemed to be having difficulty with the Sage Mode clone's superior strength. Kuratsuchi audibly heard bones snapping from the hooded foe. Unfortunately, there was another one. While the clone was clearly distracted, the other hooded figure ran behind the clone and put its hand to his back. Kuratsuchi saw a flash of lightning burst out and then a cloud of smoke that indicated the dispelling of the clone. Shit, this was bad. The 2 hooded attackers turned to the 2 girls and began to move slowly towards them. One was holding its disfigured hand gingerly, and obviously hobbling. It at least appeared that the clone had managed to injure one of them. Still, Kuratsuchi was not ready to take on 2 opponents who had managed to best the famed shinobi's clone who was known to have held their own against Kages. Plus, Kuratsuchi had a major injury that was probably life-threatening. Fuck, this was really bad. Mitsui was petrified. She shook in pure terror at seeing her surrogate mother figure in such pain and 2 menacing opponents walking towards both of them. She did not know what to do. Naruto and Kuratsuchi had trained her to handle these kinds of situations, but all of that was forgotten and replaced with horror. Despite this, Naruto had done a fantastic job of teaching her to simply act from instinct rather than remember acquired knowledge. Before she knew she was doing it, she clapped her hands and a strong gust of wind shot out from them. Since the gale palm technique was better suited for increasing the lethality of projectile weapons, and not for isolated attacks, it was not very effective. The hooded figure who was not injured sidestepped away from the attack. However, it did partly hit the injured figure, and they lost their balance from the gust. Kuratsuchi was losing consciousness. The mist had come back and she was having difficulty trying to decide if it was because her vision was becoming hazy from the fog or the fact that she was losing a lot of blood. Or it could have from the poison. Then again, did it really matter? She did not think so. Suddenly, there was a flash of yellow. Mitsui was about to try a water release technique when she felt her terror drift away from the mist. Her fright dissipated when the injured foe was incapacitated by Naruto's knee driving into his neck. The war hero was holding an unconscious person who wore the same hooded cloak the other ambushers wore with one arm. Naruto stood up and his horizontal pupils screamed rage when they were aimed at the last standing rogue. "Get the fuck away from my family." After Naruto's words were heard, the hooded figure silently brandished a crude knife from their cloak and ran towards Naruto. The attacker's other hand glowed with lightning chakra. Naruto could feel it. Pure rancor was firing in his veins at the awful sight. The two people he would easily die for were in danger because of him. It seemed Kuratsuchi had disposed of her attacker, so he decided to take his emotions out on the only standing opponent. Naruto wanted to eradicate their very existence, and use Kurama's potent chakra to do so. Nevertheless, he settled on a different strategy. Naruto did not move a muscle until the hooded figure was right in front of him. Even then, the attacker's knife was inches away from Naruto's frame until the foes switched tactics by bringing their lightning-enhanced hand up faster, hoping to catch Naruto off guard. Despite their worthy attempt, Naruto still had not moved. A sudden shockwave erupted from the blonde a fraction of a second later, and the compression was so sharp that the surrounding mist was immediately pushed back by its abrupt force. The hooded figure was motionless and practically suspended in action for a second more. Then they collapsed. Naruto appeared like he had never even moved, and then his expression changed from ire to extreme concern. Kuratsuchi's equilibrium may have been disrupted considerably, and she was losing cognitive function with every passing second, but none of that stopped her from staring at the impressive blonde with extreme awe. "What the hell did you do to him?" The situation was too critical for Naruto to participate in her banter, but he still answered quickly. "I punched him." "Kuratsuchi, please stay with me." Kuratsuchi wanted to listen to his pleas. She really did, but her body was in too much pain and her head was swimming. She saw Naruto's ocean blue eyes darken when her head hit the dirt. He looked so beautiful when he was worried. Her romantic musings were probably a result from her critical condition, but she did not care all that much. They were true. Mitsui was standing next to him, yelling at her to not fall asleep. She was only going to take a nap, honestly. Why was everyone freaking out? Everything was fading away to black and Naruto was telling her to stay awake, and they were going to get her help. He also said he could not lose her. Well, that was odd. She was not lost, she was right there. Naruto cared about her though, and she liked that. As she finally slipped into unconsciousness, she thought about how much she liked that. This was good. Naruto was gnawing on his fingers as he looked over to Kuratsuchi's sleeping form. There was a number of machines hooked up to her, and he wondered how long it was going to be until she awoke. Mitsui was also fast asleep in a giant chair next to him. The hospital room felt too quiet to him. It was already early morning and he had yet to sleep. He and his clones had even carried his companions and all the hooded attackers to Kiri in less than an hour. He had used Kurama for that bit because the situation had definitely called for it. The looks on the village guards were priceless when he had approached them, toting a bunch of cloaked fighters and an injured Iwa Kunoichi. He still wondered if they were more surprised by that or by the fact that he was Naruto Uzumaki. He had done all of that, and he still did not feel even remotely tired. The Kiri hospital was smaller than Konoha's but was still equipped with state-of-the-art medical equipment, and its staff were all top-notch professionals. This did not mean Naruto liked it, however. He still abhorred hospitals and would rather be anywhere else than in one. Despite this fact, he would have traded spots with Kuratsuchi in a second. He had really fucked this one up. Regrets and shame flooded his mind. He should have made more clones or given them more chakra. He should not have even left in the first place. It had obviously been a tactic to divert him from the rest of the group, but he had acted out of impulse anyways. He hated moments like this because he was usually so certain he had matured as a person and as a shinobi over the years, only to realize he was sorely mistaken. The man who had distracted him from everyone was the one who had infused chakra with the natural mist, and turned out to be extremely elusive. In the end, Naruto had bested him. After he had incapacitated the slippery opponent, his clone's memories had hit him, and he had sprinted to his friends with the utmost haste. When Naruto found out the blade that had punctured Kuratsuchi was poisoned, he had really kicked himself. Thanks to her efforts though, Mitsui was unharmed and he was grateful for that much. Naruto wanted to move now. He wanted to make this right. He needed to do something rather than sit around and hate himself for making such a horrible mistake. Naruto was so antsy that when the doctor finally came to the room, he had scared the poor man with his distressed attitude. Also, the fact that Naruto practically cornered him as the door closed did not help either. Is she going to be alright? Naruto's eyes searched the doctor's face for something hopeful, praying it was something positive. The medical man was alert by the brazen attitude, but he quickly collected himself. Yes, Uzumaki-san. The young lady will be just fine. Lucky for you, this was not the first time we have had a case like this. Naruto tilted his head. It isn't? The doctor appeared to be grave about the matter. His countenance darkened a bit. No, I'm afraid not. The rogues you came into contact with have attacked many travelers and shinobi alike. They are quite formidable and their skillful knowledge of toxins is astounding. Naruto bit the inside of his cheek. So the poison was bad? The doctor's manner suddenly became irritable. It's not poison, Uzumaki-san. You ingest poison, this was venom. A most potent one at that. It's derived from a rare blowfish that can only be found in Mizu no Kuni, and even then, they added some nasty components to it. Again, you were lucky because we created an antivenom a while back because of all the frequent cases. Naruto was glad Kuratsuchi would be fine, but his investigative instincts were kicking in. Do we know who these criminals are? With their knowledge of poisons and the skills they displayed, my guess is they are missing mean? The doctor closed his eyes and shook in irritation. Venom, Uzumaki-san. And I don't know. That information is not held within my field of work. You'll have to ask Mei-sama when she arrives later this morning. This was news to Naruto, and he perked up at the announcement. Mei's coming? Is that because I'm here? The doctor nodded and he suddenly looked exasperated. Yes, it's not every day that a war hero shows up in our village. That, and she wants to see you. Now if you'll excuse me, I have work to attend to. As Naruto watched the doctor leave, he stared at the woman he loved. She was gorgeous even as she slept, and he was relieved by the good news. Those few moments where he had seen her close her eyes, however, were some of the most terrifying of his entire life. He had thought he would lose her, and simply reminding himself of that time tore him to pieces. The epiphany was slow, but it ebbed along the shore of his mind. What would happen to him if he ever lost her? Would he be able to live on as he did now? He did not know and did not want to. Naruto eventually made his way back to the chair by Mitsui and relaxed into it. Naruto tried to at least get some sleep. He failed miserably. The next day was dazzling. It was a sunny day in Kirigakure, and according to the locals, that was a rare occurrence in the spring. However, for Naruto, it was dazzling for another reason. Kuratsuchi was awake, and she was smiling at him. It was one of the smiles that was cultivated after dreadful events and filled primarily with alleviation. There was a hint of attraction buried within it as well. Naruto was sitting next to her on the bed and Mitsui was tinkering with something in her chair adjacent to them. Naruto's hand was on top of Kuratsuchi's and both were acutely aware of that fact. I'm just glad that you're alright. I shouldn't have run off like that. Kuratsuchi shook her head and frowned slightly. No, it's not your fault. Seriously, hero, for as confident as you are, you have too many regrets. Naruto leaned his head forward and his jaw tightened. It's not that I regret what can't be fixed, it's just I made such a stupid mistake. I don't want to make any more mistakes, Kuratsuchi. I thought I had outgrown such things. Kuratsuchi sighed. We don't outgrow mistakes, hero. We just learn from them. Naruto nodded. He should stop kicking himself. Considering what Kuratsuchi had gone through when it came to doubts, it would probably benefit him to not do the same thing. Okay, I just won't repeat it. Kuratsuchi smiled brightly. Her smiles had always been beautiful to him, but now they held something different. They held hope and confidence in the future. She wore that smile well. After a few more questions and answers involving yesterday's events were exchanged, a knock was heard on the door. Naruto went to answer it, and was not surprised to see the Godame Mizukage, Mei Terumi, standing on the other side of the doorway. She was accompanied by her personal guard and friend, Chojuro. Hey Mei! Naruto held his hand up in greeting and gestured for her and Chojuro to come in. Mei smiled cordially as she stepped into the private hospital room. Hello Uzumaki-kun. My, how you've grown. When Naruto introduced Mitsui to Mei, the gorgeous woman's visible eye lit up. A Kitagawa member? Her eyes narrowed a bit as she calculated the little girl's appearance. Yes, I know those eyes well. My oh my, I have read the report regarding your clan, my dear. My condolences for your loss. Despite her manners concerning the deceased, Mei's lips twitched with a small smile. That would make you the last known ice release user, dear. And by the look of your muscles, it looks like Uzumaki-kun has been training you well. My, you'll be a strong shinobi when you grow up. Mitsui blushed at the generous compliment. She knew this lady in blue was easily one of the strongest kunoichi alive. She could tell just by the way she carried herself. To be appraised by such a deadly warrior was surely an honor. After proper introductions were exchanged, Mei turned to Kuratsuchi and bowed. I'm so sorry that you were injured in my territory. As a small token of my apologies, I will cover all hospital fees and any further expenses you may have while you are present in Kiri. Kuratsuchi smiled sheepishly, and waved her hand in a dismissive manner. It's quite all right, Mei-sama. I could never blame you for something like this. There's no need to handle our expenses. Mei stood up from her bow and furrowed her brow. Nonsense. I wouldn't be a decent host otherwise. It's the very least I can do. Kuratsuchi wanted to protest further, but when she saw the steeled resolve behind Mei's stunning eye, she decided for that to be most unwise. Naruto broke the minor tension by wrapping his arm around Chojuro's neck in a friendly manner. Man, it's been far too long, Chojuro. How you been? Chojuro gave an embarrassed smile, but Kuratsuchi was happy to see it was a far more confident one than it had been years ago. I'm well, Naruto-san, thank you. Chojuro looked over to Kuratsuchi with concern evident on his features. Are you well though, Kuratsuchi? Kuratsuchi smiled kindly at her friend. She and Chojuro had been good friends ever since they became representatives for the Shinobi Union. I'm fine, Chojuro. Thank you. Is the Union holding up all right without me? Chojuro nodded. Of course. We've all missed you since you took your leave for the remainder of your mission, but Akatsuchi's done a considerable job of taking your place. Kuratsuchi smirked at the comment about her best friend and teammate. I bet he is. I like to think that I was better at it though. Chojuro only smiled at that remark. At that moment, the doctor barged into the room. When the doctor saw Mei, he immediately bowed nervously. Mei-sama. I speak for everyone here that we are all honored to have your presence here with us today. Mei grinned happily and giggled. Why, thank you, sensei. You're all doing a marvelous job. The doctor looked like he was about to cry at the compliment, and was still in the bowing position. Thank you, Mei-sama. Mei then tilted her head. Now, I have read the report for this case, and it is my understanding that the Itto clan is involved, yes? The doctor finally stood up straight. Yes, Mei-sama. Naruto scratched his chin and looked inquisitively at Mei. The Itto clan? I didn't think they were clan members. None of them showed any signs of a Kekkei Genkai. As Mei's head moved to stare at Naruto, her bangs fluttered gracefully with her. Well, they're not exactly a clan, per se. They're more of a band of missing nin that started from a clan. The clan head and a few of his personal guards are the only remnants of the actual clan left after the Civil War, I'm afraid. Naruto's face formed a scowl at the mention of a leader, and it did not go by unnoticed from a certain dark-haired kunoichi. They've recently gathered up many of the missing nin in the country, and have used their forces to burden our own. Naruto noted the slight twinge of contempt in Mei's lips as she spoke about them. They'd been a rather large thorn in our sides for a few months now. Mei's smile brightened. However, you've brought us a wonderful gift, for living members that are being interrogated as we speak. The deceased woman's body, whose face had been horribly obliterated, is undergoing an autopsy. Judging from their abilities and rank within their clan, they were certainly no amateurs. The squad leader should reveal much to us. I must thank you, Uzumaki-kun. We've been troubled by them for far too long. The doctor coughed politely into his hand. Yes, Mei-sama is correct. As I said earlier, Uzumaki-san, our number of similar cases has been increasing. Mei gave a forlorn expression. Indeed. When they first started to bother us, we had a lot of trouble with them because of their poison. The look on the doctor's face when Mei said poison was almost too much for Naruto. He had to bite his lips from laughing out loud, and from the glint in Mei's eye, it was not hard to tell she enjoyed it too. He knew he liked her for a reason. After the humorous moment passed, Naruto spoke up. If they'd been bothering you so much, why haven't you asked the Union for aid? Mei brought her hand up to her face defensively. I couldn't possibly ask for help from others for my country's problems. Naruto frowned. But it's important to ask for help at times. Gaara asked me for help when I was in Suna a few months back. That comment seemed to interest the Mizukage. Her visible eye sparkled at the mention of the red-headed Kazekage. She had great respect for the man. Well now, it's different when it's a war hero. Mei seemed to think about something for a moment, and she gazed at Naruto pensively. Would you like to dispose of the Itto clan, Uzumaki-kun? I'm sure a man of your caliber could handle them. Naruto was about to agree to the proposal with extreme elation when Kuratsuchi beat him to it. Excuse me, Mei-sama, but I don't think Naruto should do that. It would be best if he stayed here with me and Mitsui. Naruto looked over at Kuratsuchi with bewilderment, as Mei blinked at the judgment. Kuratsuchi, I can handle it. Those people hurt you and… Kuratsuchi glared at him, and cut him off. Naruto, please. I don't want you leaving here. Mei's eyebrows lifted when she saw Kuratsuchi's expression. Interesting, she thought. The young kunoichi had affections for the blonde. Oh well, he was too young for her, anyways. It was at that time Mei decided to drop the matter. It's all right, Uzumaki-san. I'm sure we'll manage on our own. She bowed one last time before she left. Get well soon, Kuratsuchi-san. You are all welcome to stay in Kiri for as long as you wish. Mei then exited the room with Chojuro escorting her. The doctor followed after her with haste. When the others had departed, Naruto glowered at Kuratsuchi. What the hell, Kuratsuchi? Why didn't you let me take the mission? Kuratsuchi narrowed her eyes in scrutiny. Your anger on the matter only convinces me more, Naruto. I don't want you leaving to fight them. Naruto shook his head in confusion. But why? I'm worried, okay? Naruto's temper subsided at that remark. What? Do you not think that I'm strong enough? Kuratsuchi sighed and looked down at her hands. It's not that. I'm just worried about you. I'm afraid you will do something you will regret if you face that clan. Naruto knelt down in front of her bed. Like what? Do you think I'll lose myself in my anger? Kuratsuchi, that won't happen. I faced Nagato in battle once, the man who killed my sensei, and I didn't kill him then. Why would I do such a thing now? Kuratsuchi could not meet his eyes. It's just that the way your face looked when Mei mentioned the clan head wasn't a good one. Please, even if I'm wrong, I don't want you leaving me right now. The emotion in her eyes was palpable. Naruto wanted to argue more. He wanted to tell her that her worries were not logical, but her eyes were convincing him otherwise. After a few more scant minutes of mental debate, Naruto complied. All right, Kuratsuchi. I won't go. Kuratsuchi's dazzling smile came back. Good. Thank you. At that moment Mitsui, who had been rather quiet during the previous conversations, piped up. Done. She held up a lovely, orange necklace with a large grin plastered upon her delicate features. Here, Nara and I made you this. She held up the coral necklace she had been working on meticulously for most of the morning. Naruto smiled affectionately and accepted the necklace gratefully. He had been looking for something orange to wear and such a gift was priceless in his eyes. Thank you very much, Mitsui. I promise I'll never take it off. Naruto fastened the gift around his neck and looked to Kuratsuchi. Look good, Kuratsuchi? She flashed a wry smile. The necklace is fine, anyways. Naruto pondered if every smile the kunoichi possessed was capable of making him weak in the knees because this one surely was. After the girls had laughed for a considerable amount of time at Kuratsuchi's jab, Naruto joined in too. He supposed this was perfect, but he still felt a pull in his stomach, regardless of the splendor of the moment. He felt like he had lied to Kuratsuchi a minute ago. It was rather simple why he felt that way. It was because he had lied. After the stars had materialized against the silky backdrop of the night, and the moon had cast its light on the land long enough, the man decided it was best to move. The hospital room was dark and the noise of the medical building was minimal. The woman and the child were fast asleep and he supposed this was his moment of opportunity. Guilt was a lump of lead in his stomach as he stared at the flawless woman dozing away. Because of where they were and her condition, she had let herself drift away deeply. She was not going to wake up despite her trained instincts. He stood over her hospital bed long enough to drill the design of her face into his skull. He did not want to forget it during his endeavor. He was doing it for her, after all. He had lied to her once before, so it was not surprising he could do it again. The lead in his stomach was heavy, but not heavy enough to stop him from leaving. He did not want to dwell on the future consequences of his actions, so he merely acted. He stepped upon the open windowsill of the room and looked out upon the beautiful village. A sliver of mist had cut through the village, but for the most part, all was visible. The village seemed to drink the moonlight greedily as it was relatively dark in the dead hours of the night. While Konoha's lights never seemed to be off, Kiri's citizens used the night to rest. He glanced back at the woman one last time and he let the lead feel dense one more time. Then, in a flash, Naruto was gone. If he had stayed, perhaps, one more second, he would have witnessed the single tear that escaped the closed eye of Kuratsuchi. As Naruto flew through the trees of Mizu, he mused about the peculiar way Mei's hair had been disheveled at night. He had woken her from her slumber, and she had been peeved at first. Whether it was more about the fact that he had bypassed her security so easily or she had lost some beauty sleep, was difficult to determine. After some quick dialogue, Naruto received the information he needed. He learned not to underestimate Kiri's interrogation team. They had managed to get all of the clan members to talk and had even acquired the coordinates of the Itto clan's base. Mei had mentioned she was going to send several teams of Kiri shinobi to the base, but after Naruto's persuasion skills were set, she settled on letting Naruto go solo. She had warned him about a woman's wrath when she was openly lied to, but Naruto was much too stubborn about the matter. He was also terrified by the woman's perception skills. In the end, Naruto had got what he wanted. The Mizukage had no doubt he would end the conflict indefinitely, and she would only have to clean up the mess afterwards. She could not complain. The location of the Itto clan's base was on a small island to the deep south of Mizu no Kuni. After Naruto was a considerable distance from Kiri, he decided he wanted to complete this mission as quickly as possible. Because of this decision, Naruto asked Kurama for the necessary chakra and he charged his legs with the powerful energy. Naruto launched from a sturdy tree branch and it broke from the sheer overload of force, but not before Naruto had received the proper leverage. He lifted off into the night sky and was a golden shimmer of light that mingled well with the stars. After only an hour or so, Naruto was in sight of the targeted island. The southern islands of Mizu no Kuni were remarkably subtropical. Naruto knew from stories told by Haku many years ago the northern islands received snow regularly, so it was surprising to see so many climates were recognized in the country. He dropped Kurama's cloak and suppressed his chakra before he got too close to the island. He did not want any sensors to raise the alarm. He needed intel before he simply barged into their base. Kakashi would have been proud that every decision made by the incorrigible blonde was not brash in manner. The island was relatively small and shaped like an egg. Naruto had jumped from an adjacent island and landed on a beach. If he had upgraded to his 6-path Sage mode, he could have levitated over to his destination, but he had deemed that overkill. He rarely relied on such power, and, without the exception of training, he had not utilized that form since the war. The island was gorgeous, and the beach Naruto stood on was comprised of soft white pieces of sand that, upon closer inspection, were actually bits of white coral. The sand was cool and fine to Naruto, and he allowed himself to stay still. There was an abundance of nature chakra around here. It was not nearly as saturated as in Mount Myaboku, but it was more than most places. Naruto knew normal sensors could not sense nature chakra, let alone even have knowledge of its existence. As he entered Sage mode, Naruto could sense all the life forms on the island as easily as if they were directly in front of him. He did not focus on all of them just yet. Naruto's breath hitched as he realized he was right next to the base. In fact, the boundaries of the compound were only about 100 feet away from him. Naruto crested a hill at the end of the beach and looked in between the subtropical trees at the top. Naruto's yellow eyes widened as he realized there was a genjutsu around the base. If it was not for his Sage mode, he would have missed it. He also surmised a seal had been placed around it to alarm anyone who breached the boundary. Fortunately, it was a rather rudimentary seal and did not cover every means of access. Naruto grinned. As long as he knew where the barrier was, he could bypass it undetected. He asked Son Goku for some earth-natured chakra. He asked for a minute amount, however, so he did not alert any of the sensors. After Son Goku acceded by forming a small tunnel, Naruto burrowed underground to pass under the barrier. He popped his head out from the hole in the ground on the other side of the boundary. He took a few seconds to collect information about his opponents. There were almost 200 fighters in the base. Naruto gulped. If he was not so confident in his own abilities, he would have doubted he could complete the mission. It was said his father had defeated over 1,000 shinobi in the Third Shinobi World War, and Naruto had a family legacy to uphold. He knew he could handle it, but there was another matter he sensed that made him uneasy. There were 5 enormous chakra signatures. Correction, there were 4 significant chakra signatures, roughly the size of Kakashi's, and 1 enormous signature. Naruto guessed the 4 were the original members of the Itto clan, and the largest was the clan head. His bandaged hand tightened at the sight of the gigantic blob of dark blue chakra. The man who was responsible for all of this, the one who, by indirect association, was guilty of harming the love of his life. After Naruto had a clear understanding of where all of his opponents were, he took a moment to focus on his task. Regardless of his use of nature chakra, as soon as Naruto created the clones he needed, the sensors among the enemy would sense the large burst of chakra Naruto would need for his clones to move so quickly that those who noticed them would be too slow to retaliate. Luckily, he was in sage mode. This time Naruto was not going to be stingy with the amount of chakra he gave his clones. He formed the necessary hand seal and suddenly, 200 sage mode clones appeared and dashed swiftly towards their individual targets. Everything happened so fast. The base became a riot when the chakra burst was sensed and 200 cloaked figures descended upon it. The Itto clan members literally did not know what hit them as the formidable clones annihilated almost the entirety of the camp within a few short minutes. Even the more adroit fighters among the Itto clan were no match for the sage mode clones. A few were lucky enough to outsmart or outmaneuver their assigned attacker but were then apprehended by another clone who had succeeded in taking out their specific target. In the end, there were only 5 clan members left. Just as he thought, Naruto dropped down to the center of the compound where the 5 members were surrounded by cloaked figures. When Naruto saw the 5 circled up defensively, he took a quick account of their appearances. They were all garbed in light, black armor and had golden hair with brown eyes. Naruto could tell by their sleeves they were most likely close-range fighters. The one in the middle of the 5 was probably the clan head. Naruto was able to deduce this fact because of 3 observations. He was the one with the largest chakra signature. He was physically the largest of all 5 of them, and he was staring straight at the real Naruto with an intense glare. Naruto glared right back. Instead of sending the clones forward, Naruto tried a different tactic. He dispelled all of the clones, thus making all 5 original members stare directly at him. Standing alone, Naruto's toad-like eyes glowered at the 5. The clan head's eyebrows furrowed. "I know your face. You are Naruto Uzumaki," one of the 4 clan members, a tall man with a thin face, blinked. "What? You mean the guy who freed everyone from those cocoons a few years ago? We're going to fucking fight that guy." The man's companion, a woman with a scar on her cheek, kicked his knee. "Don't look like such a pussy in front of Norio-sama." The man with the thin face shook his head. "He just took out everyone. With fucking clones. Am I the only one who saw that?" The clan head, Norio, snorted. "Rafa, silence. A warrior does not show fear before his opponent. You disgrace me." The man with the thin face, Rafu, shrunk at the booming voice of his leader and remained silent. Norio turned his massive head back to Naruto and fixed his eyes on him fearlessly. "Why does a Konohanin come and attack me?" Naruto loathed the way the gigantic brute was looking at him and the way he implied his importance over his subordinates. He wanted to plant his fist square into that monster's huge nose. Nevertheless, Naruto controlled himself. "I'm here on behalf of the Mizukage and have come to bring you and your entire clan back to Kiri to answer for your crimes." Naruto smirked. "It would make things a lot easier if you surrender without a fight." Naruto gritted his teeth in ire when he heard the bear of a man release a baritone laugh. "Take me back to Kiri? Why, my little naive friend, that look you're giving me tells me otherwise." The large man grinned dangerously. "You want to kill me, don't you?" Naruto's pupils dilated in surprise for a mere second, but he focused back on his target. "I'm taking you back to Kiri. Whether I do that by force or peace is up to you." Norio guffawed loudly. "There's nothing peaceful about the way you're looking at me. To think the famed war hero has a grudge, it's deliciously ironic to say the least." Naruto was growing impatient. "Look, are you going to surrender or not?" "No, I'm not," the clan head stated blankly. Naruto almost took a step back from the awful grin he received from the clan head. Naruto hated to admit it, but he was glad the clan head had made that decision. Very well. Naruto still was not sure of the clan members' capabilities, so he needed to take them out before they could use them. He still had a considerable amount of nature chakra. He would need to act fast. He moved his hands into the proper hand seal and 2 clones materialized next to him. They quickly channeled chakra into their hands to brandish 2 raisin shuriken and sprinted at the 5 clan members. The clones were fast, but to Naruto's astonishment, the clan members were even faster. All 5 of them flashed away from the approaching clones. Luckily, Naruto's clones sensed the 5 of them quick enough and one of the clones threw their raisin shuriken at a clan member. The spinning ball of wind chakra struck the unknown clan member, and he was immediately caught in the white vortex of the raisin shuriken's explosion. Naruto tried to scan the chakra signatures to discern what had made all of them capable of such speeds. It was not like the Raikage's lightning-enhanced speed or a mere use of Shunshin. Naruto did not have time to figure it out as the woman with the scar appeared to his immediate right. Before she could attack, he swung his legs swiftly into her sternum, and she flew back from the sheer force of the nature-enhanced kick. Naruto was pretty sure he had at least cracked a few ribs with that strike. The woman reeled at the pain, and the other clone took advantage of the situation and threw their Raisin Shuriken at her. The wind technique almost reached her too, but she vanished from sight before it struck and it barreled down harmlessly into the trees beyond. Naruto cursed as he felt the nature chakra leave his body. Suddenly, the third clan member appeared in front of him. She was short with her hair tied up into a bun. She looked up innocently at Naruto. "Your eyes changed. Does that mean you got weaker?" Naruto blinked in surprise. All of a sudden, his body was covered in Kurama's golden chakra and he grinned. Nope. The short girl did not have enough time to back up as a fist was thrown directly into her abdomen. She flew across the base like a rag doll and Naruto knew she was not going to get back up anytime soon. Immediately following that attack, Naruto felt a very evil presence. The woman with the scar suddenly flashed behind him and was directing her sword, that Naruto noticed was soaked in poison, at his neck. "You dick!" she exclaimed. In Kurama chakra mode, Naruto had no problem sensing her and dodging her attack. He effortlessly ducked under the swing and directed an uppercut into her face as she was above him in midair. But the evil presence was still around. It had not been her. She fell to the ground a few feet away and did not move. The last standing member, Rafu, appeared next to her with concern. "Ai-san." He swiftly checked her pulse, and once he proved she was still alive, he glared at Naruto. "I know that you're probably going to defeat me, but I won't forgive you for what you did to Ai-san." Naruto did not seem to be paying attention to the tall man's declaration. He was scratching his chin in thought. "Oh, swift release. That's why you guys are so fast, huh? Wow, that's impressive. I didn't think there was a clan with that Kekkei Genkai." Rafu growled at being ignored by the formidable blonde. "I'll fucking kill you." He flashed towards Naruto with great speed, but Naruto was far quicker. He lowered his body and performed a sweeping kick to drop the tall man. Once he was on the ground facing up, the last sight Rafu witnessed before he blacked out was Naruto's elbow slamming into his face. Naruto stood up from the attack and scanned the area for the clan head. He sensed his movement too late when Norio flashed from behind and kicked him. Naruto flew forward from the impact and skidded across the rough terrain. His back felt rather sore from the hit, but it was nothing major. Norio stood in front of him and began to clap slowly. "Amazing, you took them all out faster than I thought you would. To be completely honest, I'm sure you surpassed me in ability." Naruto frowned. "You don't seem that concerned with your fellow members." The shrug the large man gave made Naruto grind his teeth so hard he thought they would shatter. "I don't really give a shit about them." You see, the Norio was not able to finish that sentence because the blonde Jinchuriki had sent a fist into his jaw. The humongous man fell several meters away in front of the war hero. Norio slowly sat up with his mouth bleeding, and he smiled grotesquely. "Fantastic. Even with my swift release, there's no way I could possibly keep up with you." Naruto did not buy the lie. Something was odd too. The man had huge chakra reserves, but he was barely using him. "You managed to get a hit in before." Norio shook his head. "Something tells me you could have dodged that attack if you wanted to. In fact, I'm positive that this isn't even your strongest form." Naruto grimaced as he finally noticed. The evil in the man before him was growing. It was rather large to begin with as Naruto realized this was the evil presence he had felt earlier. The manic grin on Norio's face surely proved that theory. He started to laugh, and it was not hard to determine it was a laugh of a madman. "You're amazing, Uzumaki. It would be my privilege to be slain by you." Naruto scowled and screamed, "Shut up." He dashed forward and punched the enormous man in the gut. His knees buckled from the blast of power, and he fell to the ground, more blood spewing from his mouth. "Fantastic." Norio grinned up at Naruto. Dementia was clearly evident in the man's brown eyes. Naruto raised his fist again, and the man's grin grew wider. "Yes, kill me. Give in to your rage. It feels amazing. I love the hatred you bring forth. A man as pure as you with so much anger makes my heart flutter. It's wonderful. Kill him." Naruto smashed his fist against the man's face one last time, silencing him. When Naruto saw the man's chest heave with intake of breath, he felt relief wash over him. He did not do it. Kuratsuchi had nothing to worry about. He did not kill anyone and he was justified. But why then? Why did he still have lead in his stomach? Apparently, his relief could not wash away the guilt. Kuratsuchi had already been discharged from the hospital when he returned to Kiri. Naruto found her and Mitsuhi in one of the rooms in Mei's house. Instead of most Hokage, Mei lived in her own house that was right next to the headquarters. Mei had plenty of room for guests, and had given 2 rooms to Naruto and his friends. When Naruto opened the door to see the 2 females, his guilt weighed him down. Kuratsuchi looked up from her seat in a rocking chair. She had been reading Mitsuhi a story from a large storybook. She closed the book when she saw Naruto, and her expression was unidentifiable. She turned to Mitsuhi, who was sitting at her feet. "Sweetie, Kurone and Nero and I need to talk. Can you go train with Mei-sama? I promise we will finish the story later." Mitsui appeared to be reluctant with the decision, but she obeyed nonetheless. After Mitsui hugged Naruto and left the room, Naruto closed the door behind him. This could get loud, he thought. The way back to Kiri had been arduous for him. It was not because he had to create another 200 clones and carry all the clan members back, but because he knew he would have to have this talk when he got back. Naruto tried to alleviate the palpable tension with a harmless topic. "Mitsui's training with Mei?" Kuratsuchi did not look at him as she stood up from the chair. Seeing the bandages around her waist did not make him feel any better. "Yes, Mei-sama has offered to help her with her ice release. Mei-sama may not be a user, but she has plenty of scrolls that have techniques and exercises to strengthen Mitsui's Kekkei Genkai." Naruto smiled softly. "That's very kind of Mei to help her considering her busy schedule." Kuratsuchi still did not look him in the eye. "Yes, it is." This was far worse than Naruto had anticipated. He was expecting her to scream and curse and throw things at him when he returned. He expected her to show some emotion at his mistake. Anything was better than this bitter and indignant attitude she was showcasing. He just wanted something from her he could work with. He wanted to apologize for his actions, but the problem was it would be an empty apology. He would have done it all again, and that meant he was not sorry. Somehow, Kuratsuchi knew this. Women were terrifying creatures. Finally, after a few painful minutes, she threw him a bone. "Do you feel justified?" Naruto shivered at her icy tone. It burned. He did not want to tell the truth, but he supposed it was time for the truth to reveal itself. "Yes, I do." It was then that Kuratsuchi turned to look at him. Naruto felt sheer agony at what he saw. There was heartache present in her pink eyes. He had hurt her, and she was not trying to cover it up with bristling fury. She was being real with him because she was able to be real with herself, something she had tried desperately to obtain back at the falls. She had been working so hard, and here was he with his guilty conscience. Her next words cut deep. "You said you didn't want to make any more mistakes." Naruto grimaced. "I thought it was for the best, all right. Do you know how many Kirinin would have died if I didn't handle it myself? I didn't kill anyone, so there was no need for you to worry." Naruto had raised his voice, something he did not want to do. Just like he had not wanted to hurt her. "You don't get it, Naruto," Naruto scoffed. "You're right. I don't get it. So, talk to me, Kuratsuchi. Please tell me." Kuratsuchi's voice was only slightly louder than it was before, but somehow, it made him quiver internally. "You acted out of anger. That is not like you, Naruto. You're usually so righteous in your actions, but this time you were not in the right." Naruto shook his head and he clutched his chest. "I don't understand what you're saying. I did it because they hurt you. I saved lives and stopped criminals. How is that not right?" Kuratsuchi closed her eyes and sighed with exasperation. "It's not what you did, Naruto, it's why you did it." Naruto's eyes widened as he realized what she was saying. He was not himself when he fought that clan, and that was what Kuratsuchi had been worried about. Regret flooded his heart, and his guilt seemed heavier. "I'm sorry, Kuratsuchi. I didn't realize." Kuratsuchi pointed her eyes away from him. "You're right, you didn't realize." Naruto knew his heart gnawed at him when he heard the scorn in her voice. He had really fucked this one up. The blonde understood that when it came to relationships, it was impossible not to hurt those around him, but it was still his fault. He had to accept responsibility for his actions, and that entailed this insufferable attitude from a beautiful woman. Seriously, he had fucked up. He tried to mend what he could and finally realized his error. "I understand your resolve on the matter. I'll accept whatever you decide to throw at me." Kuratsuchi allowed her feelings to subside. She could not hold it against him. He had always had her best intentions at heart, even if they were wrong sometimes. But that did not mean she had to just concede with his unjustifiable actions. She needed to investigate further. "You hurt me, Naruto. You hurt me when you lied to me. I know. I'm sorry. I can only beg for your forgiveness." She knew this was not easy for him. It was not often the blonde apologized for his impulsive decisions, and she supposed that displayed improvement. Then again, she kind of liked Naruto like that. Do you still feel justified then? Naruto knew the right answer this time around. No, Kuratsuchi still needed to understand the end goal behind his actions. Unbeknownst to her at the moment, her investigative behavior on the matter would ultimately transform their relationship forever. Many years later, she would find herself ever grateful for her curious ways. Very grateful, indeed. You lied to me, Naruto. You've never done that before, she said, having already forgiven him. The guilt was so heavy he felt he was going to fall to the ground. Before his mind could comprehend what his mouth was doing, he spoke the truth. It's not the first time. Kuratsuchi's eyes fixed immediately back at him, terror evident in the rosiness. What? She was so startled by that statement that she did not know what else to say. Naruto could not meet her eyes. Back in Taki, I lied to you. Naruto took a deep breath. This was it. Why did it have to be now of all times? But she needed to know the truth. She deserved it. When I said I wanted you. His eyes found their way to hers. I meant it. Kuratsuchi did not move. She let the confession sink in. She wanted to tell him she had lied too, that she had not been entirely truthful that night. If he had wanted her, then what did that mean? Was it purely from a sexual standpoint? He clarified and shattered her whole world. I still do. There was a moment of silence so long that when Naruto spoke again, she did not hear him. I'm sorry, can you say that again? She asked with growing clarity. I love you, Kuratsuchi. Before she knew it, she was kissing him. She did not even remember if she had approached him, or if he had approached her. It did not really matter, she supposed. She was kissing Naruto. She was loving every second of it too. He had to lean his head down to match her height and meet her lips. It had been so long since she last kissed a man that she had been afraid she would forget how to. But the fact they were locking lips passionately abolished all her doubts. Finally, after a protracted time filled with physical affection had passed, Kuratsuchi broke away. She gasped for air and buried her face against his chest, grazing the orange necklace. His lungs heaved for air, and she could hear them fill up and then release. It was intoxicating. She decided to meet him where he was at. I love you too, Naruto. They owned that moment. Despite the tension and disagreement, the truth had finally been known to each of them. The weight of guilt had been lifted from both their souls. They had been through pain and had hurt each other, but at least they made it all have a purpose. They had a definite goal now, to love each other. That night the two of them slept in separate rooms, but they both dreamed of each other. When they awoke the next morning, both had wondered if their confessions had been dreams too. They were happy to find out it had all been real. Chapter 20. Fortifications. Had the world always been so bright? She did not think so, but she could have been wrong. Colors were so vivid and the sun felt so warm. Everything had more life to it. Even after she had united with her other half, she had not felt half as wonderful as she did now. Love was an odd thing, she supposed. Kuratsuchi had been in love before. She had been entangled with unrequited love in her teen years. That feeling had been different, and had sometimes been filled with great pain and heartache. However, to be loved by the one you loved was a completely different feeling. It made everything so much more enjoyable. It was like a whole new reality awoke to the splendor of its gentle rhythms and knew the hope it concealed within. It was alive and Kuratsuchi breathed in that new life. This feeling must have been the epitome of happiness, and she knew emotion was temporary too. Perhaps, love was greater than mere happiness though. Perhaps, love could be the beginning of joy. A joy that could be sung and whispered at the same time with a million endings that all illuminated the grandeur of what love was. She was high off the feeling of it, but more than anything, Kuratsuchi knew with her mind that she loved Naruto Uzumaki. Kuratsuchi clutched the blanket in her hands and turned to lay on her side. The sleeping form of Naruto was next to her, breathing deeply. The early morning sunlight gently irradiated his chiseled features. She had accepted him last night, and not for the first time. About 2 weeks into their defined relationship, they had decided to love each other in the purest form. Normally, Kuratsuchi would not have jumped into such an act so quickly, but she had known the blonde long enough to where it was deemed appropriate. They loved each other, after all. Both had been virgins and neither knew what they were doing that night. It had been awkward and experimental, but their laughs were easy and the tension washed away quickly enough. Kuratsuchi had been surprised by how little Naruto knew considering he could have acquired a ton of experience from women in his life. Nevertheless, it was pleasant, and it was fortunate that she got to be his first. They had been in Kiri for about 2 months now, and there had been a lot of development since then. They had told Mitsui what was going on between them in the most basic way they could. Mitsui was pretty sharp and picked up the fact that while they were not exactly on the same level as a married couple, they were on that course of direction. When Mei found out, she had worn the same devilish grin for about a week straight. She had commented it was so obvious from the beginning, but Kuratsuchi had decided to ignore that prickly detail. Naruto had reported to Kakashi about his new relationship with her, to which the Hokage had responded with a cheeky letter that left Naruto red in the face for a few days. Kuratsuchi, in turn, had mentioned the relationship in a report to her grandfather. His reply had been short, but it carried his simple blessing. Naruto stirred in his slumber and changed his position. Kuratsuchi felt her face heat up as she marveled in the allure of her lover. As far as physical looks went, Naruto was by far one of the most handsome men she had ever seen. She was probably a little biased, but in an objective sense, Naruto was gorgeous. All of his muscles were clearly defined and his face had a masculine elegance to it. He also had finally gotten a haircut. He had let her cut his hair a week ago, and now it was about the length of what Obito's had been. She thought he looked great like that. Naruto was exquisite to her eyes but also to her soul. He was so kind, thoughtful, and careful with her. Even in their lovemaking, it was never about him. He never went to her as something he could take from, instead he only ever gave her more. In return, Kuratsuchi gave all of herself to him, praying it was enough. The way he looked at her and kissed her showed her it was more than enough. They were both just so grateful for one another that their insecurities were not really a problem. They never stopped giving and they were joyful for it. After a few moments of quiet appreciation from the kunoichi, Naruto slowly opened his eyes. He smiled at her and kissed her forehead. "Good morning, beautiful," she beamed. "Good morning, hero." Naruto sat up and left the bed. He strolled over to the adjacent closet and skimmed around to find a shirt. Kuratsuchi laid on her back and sighed up at the ceiling. "Can't we just lay in bed all day? Do we have to go train again?" Naruto chuckled as he found a suitable orange shirt. "As wonderful as pleasing you all day sounds, I'm afraid we need to train because Mitsui will surpass us soon if we don't." Kuratsuchi knew he was exaggerating, but not by that much. In the last couple months, the little girl had grown exponentially. Her control over ninjutsu and her chakra reserves had increased. Everyone was uncertain as to how. Some said it was due to Mei's rigorous training and others said it was Mitsui's great talent. Kuratsuchi had discerned it was probably both. She probably would never surpass Naruto Uzumaki, but she would no doubt be a Kage-level shinobi one day. Kuratsuchi sat up in the bed and blinked tiredly over at Naruto. "Fine. Can we at least get breakfast this time?" Naruto grinned after he put his shirt on. "You bet." After they both were dressed and their stomachs were filled, they knew they would find their other two housemates at the Western training ground. Every morning they would find Mitsui and Mei training as if they had been there all night. One morning when the two lovers tried to see if they could get up earlier and beat them to the training grounds, they had discovered the two females sparring each other. Naruto wished he had not been surprised by that development. That morning, they found Mei standing over a sprawled Mitsui. Her chest was heaving and there were scuffs and bruises surrounding her little frame, a typical morning spar with Mei. When the Mizukage saw the two lovers approaching them, she waved at them with her delicate fingers. "Why, good morning. Did you two lovebirds sleep well last night?" A sly smile crossed her features. "Considering the noise, I wonder if you two slept at all." Kuratsuchi visibly blushed and Naruto coughed into his hand. Mitsui either did not notice or was too exhausted to care about the suggestive jab. Mitsui sat up then and beckoned Mei. "Can we work on chakra now, Nei-san?" Mei loved that name, so her smile brightened when she heard it. "Of course, my dear. We need to increase your chakra levels." Mei instructed the girl to work independently on some strenuous exercises. Physical activities increased chakra capacity, and so did frequent meditation. As Mitsui started to do some sit-ups with a dense weight in between her small hands, Mei sauntered over to the couple. "You know that girl is certainly impressive. She actually caught me off guard once during our spar." Naruto grinned proudly at that. "She made a spire of eyes shoot out from under me when I was in the air. She made me have to actually use my lava release. It was only once and was a little unnecessary on both ends, but still, she has a lot of potential." Kuratsuchi smiled at the beautiful Kage. "Yes, well, we've always known Mitsui was capable of great things." She aware she was starting to sound like a standard parent speaking about their talented child. Mei leaned forward and covered her mouth with her hand. Her sly smile returned. I also am happy to say that the girl has another nature affinity that you both might be interested in. Naruto's eyes widened and Kuratsuchi nodded. A glint shined from the Mizuki's brilliant eyes. She can use earth release. It's not a remarkable affinity, like her water or wind release, but it's adept enough for it be worth working on. Mei turned to Kuratsuchi. I'm sure you won't mind helping the little one with that? Kuratsuchi grinned. She was quite proud of her skill of water and fire release, but her earth was surely the strongest basic transformation she had in her arsenal. With her help, she was confident she could make Mitsui a capable earth user. After that, Naruto joined Mitsui in performing some sit-ups, and Mei had to leave to attend to some Kage business. After the Mizukage had left, Kuratsuchi decided to work on her new technique. She had been using her lava release to form ash. If she was precise with her chakra, she was able to use the ash to trap and seal her target. That was the theory, anyways. Kuratsuchi stared at the small boulder in front of her. The stone was smoothly gray and blank. Kuratsuchi took a deep breath and let her lungs surge with chakra. The familiar sense of burning liquid was there, and she focused to dry it out, while still keeping it hot in essence. She sent the burning chakra up and cupped a funneled hand around her lips. Her mind was only on the task and nothing else. She focused fire-natured chakra into her hand to make sure the chakra was even more hot and dry. With her free hand, she performed the appropriate 2 half-seals. A screen of hot ash burst from her lips and coated the rock. Particles of ash slid off the rock face, and the surface of the stone seemed to be partially charred. Kuratsuchi bit her lip in frustration. The boulder should have been trapped in the ash like a natural cage, but this was more like a blanket. To Kuratsuchi's confusion, she was having a hard time as to why it was not working. Granted, she was training a skill that no one had ever used before. It was all experimental and mostly based off her knowledge of lava release and corrosion in general. She was treading new ground with this technique, and it was natural for there to be pitfalls. It might have had something to do with the way she was using half-seals and using her other hand to channel chakra. But the fact her focus was so strong made that hypothesis crumble. It needed to be thicker, like dried lava. For some reason, however, she could just not figure out the proper components of it all. After a few more minutes of quiet brooding, Kuratsuchi decided it was time to take a break. The sun was high above her as she trotted over to her little family. Naruto was laughing as he was performing curls with a heavy log that used to be the trunk of a solid oak. Mitsui was doing the same exercise with a smaller log that was more proportionate to her size. The poor girl appeared to be on her last leg. She worked so hard that it was alarming how much drive she had at her age. Kuratsuchi had a feeling Naruto was probably similar at her age. The war hero always influenced others in an interesting way. When Naruto saw the beautiful Kunoichi approach him, he could not help but show off just a little. He threw the log up in the air and swiftly flipped over onto his hands. With his legs in the air, he caught the falling log with them and balanced a gigantic piece of wood. Mitsui's mouth was open as she gaped at the trick. Naruto grinned broadly and flashed his proud eyes at his lover. Kuratsuchi rolled her eyes, but her amused smile broke through for him. "Do you ever get tired, hero?" Naruto chuckled and pushed the log away with his feet. He stood up and wiped his brow in a refreshed manner. "Not really. My stamina has always been impressive." She could not argue with that. It was at that moment where Mitsui hit her limit, and she fell to the ground in a daze. Kuratsuchi rushed to her side and held up the child's head. "Are you all right, sweetie?" she asked with concern etched in her inflection. Mitsui opened her stark eyes and pointed them to the kunoichi. "Yeah. Sorry, Kurone," Kuratsuchi sighed in relief. "It's fine, little one. Just don't push yourself so hard. Training means nothing if you destroy your body in the process. At your age, it's easy to hurt your body from tough exercise." Mitsui nodded her understanding. Naruto's shadow loomed over both of them as he stood upright. "Come on, let's get some ramen and rest for a bit, okay?" Naruto picked up Mitsui with one arm and intertwined his free hand with Kuratsuchi's. He led the way out of the training ground and his family happily obliged. As Kuratsuchi felt his warm hand encase her own, she marveled in how it felt warmer than the ash ever could. The air in the room tasted smooth on her tongue when he held her. It reminded her of sweet milk as the white moonlight filtered into their little bedroom. She felt secure and safe in the man's veined arms. Despite her arousal, she did not want to jump right into a physical act. Kuratsuchi instead decided to let out her intrusive thoughts. She turned her gentle head up to his eyes. "Naruto, do you think I'm strong?" She knew it was an abrupt question, but her thoughts were intricately connected to her feelings. Naruto blinked and pondered for a moment. He did not seem particularly fazed by the question. He was a blunt person by nature, and was quick to make decisions based off his hasty inclinations. However, every now and then, he would take a little longer to think on something. Kuratsuchi liked it when he did that. I do. The following point was probably the manifestation of his pause to think. Because you know what strength is. Kuratsuchi raised an eyebrow. Naruto elaborated. Strength is having power over what you can control and realizing what you can't. Naruto shrugged. Most people have understanding over the first part, and ignore the second one. Kuratsuchi stared forward and thought about his words. So they tried to control what can't be controlled. Naruto's lips thinned. Yes, I'm a man who tries to do that pretty often. His lips curled into a smile. However, I've learned that others can help me with what I can't control. Kuratsuchi smiled openly, showing her pearly teeth. And that's why you'll be a great Hokage, Naruto. His eyes softened. Thank you, Kuratsuchi. You work so hard yourself that I know you'll surpass your grandfather in no time. Kuratsuchi smiled modestly. I don't work that hard, hero. Naruto kissed her nose gently. But you do. I'm in awe at the effort you've been putting into your training. It's actually a little surprising because I've only seen you like that recently. Kuratsuchi averted her eyes and chewed the inside of her cheek. Maybe I've discovered a reason to be strong. Naruto narrowed his eyes in confusion. Haven't you already had that? Didn't you want to be strong for your village? Kuratsuchi nodded vigorously. Yes, of course, and that's brought me a long way. Except now, I found a new obstacle I want to climb over. I don't need to climb it, but I know that it's worth it. Naruto still did not completely understand. Why? Because it will bring me closer to you. Her eyes were shining. I want to be strong for you and Mitsui because you both are doing the same thing. She was not wrong, Naruto thought. Naruto had a multitude of reasons to train, most of which were simply because he loved training, but being strong for the love of his life had definitely been added to the list. Any other reasons? There were actually. Ever since her encounter at the falls, Kuratsuchi's philosophy on life had solidified. I found that perseverance has brought me to where I am now, and I want it to bring me even further. The world has a lot of potential to it, and it deserves to be sought after. Naruto grinned cheerfully. I couldn't agree more. I love how much you've grown before my eyes, Kuratsuchi. The couple found their way to the bed and embraced each other tightly. Kuratsuchi breathed in her lover's scent. Naruto smelled of a summer's air with a curious hint of ramen mixed in pleasantly. It was interesting how she knew the smell so intimately now. She was so acquainted with his scent that she could not remember a time where she was unaware of it. She supposed the smell came with loving someone so greatly even the senses were subject to love's power. Naruto ran his fingers through Kuratsuchi's hair slowly. He allowed his eyes to roam over her fine features, exploring every inch of her flesh as if it was the most exquisite painting ever created. Did she know how well her rosy eyes accentuated her ebony locks? Or the way her creamy skin seemed to melt in his hands? He relished in the revelation of knowing he was the only one permitted to know such wonderful things about her. Every day with her was like an amazing gift that was only for him. He cherished the gift who was Kuratsuchi. Finally, after several seconds of admiration, Naruto spoke softly to her. I love you. She kissed him. I love you too. Naruto paused to think about something. Did you know I used to play alone when I was a kid? It was Kuratsuchi's turn to be taken aback by the sudden announcement. Her eyes widened and then closed as she giggled. Naruto did not seem to mind though because he smiled as she laughed. Sorry, you just caught me off guard. Naruto grinned. No, I'm sorry. I just figured I could tell you anything. I've never really told a person everything about myself. Maybe you can't do that though because you'll never know yourself completely, but I might as well tell you what I can. Kuratsuchi nodded. I like that. Okay, what games did you play? Naruto's eyes were not exactly full of sorrow as he spoke. They were more elaborate than that. They bore knowledge of events long past and the forgiveness that came with old wrongdoings. Mostly ninja games where I jumped around, pretending to know what I was doing. Sometimes I would find other kids playing with each other, and I'd feel alone. Naruto's eyes dulled a bit. Not the kind of loneliness that comes from not having anyone with you so much. It was more like the loneliness that feels like no one likes you. An almost dreary expression formed upon his face. It turns out I was right about that part. Kuratsuchi grabbed his hand and squeezed it. Her eyes felt hot. I'm so sorry, Naruto. His eyes broke through the moonlit darkness, and he smiled. It wasn't your fault, Kuratsuchi. Besides, all of those people are my friends now. What happened is over now, but today will always be here, right? Kuratsuchi could not understand how the man's emotions could change so swiftly. A person never really knew where he was going to go, and how quickly he would do so. She absolutely loved it. Right. Tell me more. Didn't you have people there for you even in those dark times? Naruto nodded. I had Hokage-chan and Irika-sensei. They showed me enough love to where I overcame the loneliness. I found my own inner strength and went forward with that. That got me far, but it wasn't until I found the power in all of my friends that I knew what strength really was. Kuratsuchi was glad to hear the origins of his earlier thoughts on strength. And who showed you that? Naruto gave a thoughtful look. Well, Ero-sennin gave me the idea. From there, I kind of just ran with it. Kuratsuchi pursed her lips. You mean Jiraiya, the Toad Sage? Yep. He was the reason behind a lot of my reasoning, and is the man who made me the way I am today. Kuratsuchi gave her lover a heavy kiss. Well, I'll have to thank him one day. Naruto laughed into his pillow heartily. I'm sure he will appreciate that, the old pervert. He directed his eyes back to her. Now it's your turn. Tell me a story from your childhood. Kuratsuchi smiled and tried to think of a good one. Okay. I remember when I was little girl I was always so amazed by my father. He's one of the strongest shinobi in IWA, and I wanted to be just like him. Once when I was about 7 or 8, I followed him to a training ground where he was teaching a young genin. They were working on the earth-style wall technique and I just couldn't resist the challenge. Kuratsuchi's pitch was higher than usual as she spoke. I had been practicing my own version of that technique for a while up to that point, mind you, and when I made a larger wall than the genin did, my father couldn't stop laughing about it. The poor kid was so embarrassed after that and hated me for it afterwards. Kuratsuchi snickered. I think it was at that point where my father started to train me by himself and I became the kunoichi that I am today. Naruto laughed with her. Your father is a great man. We should go see him sometime. Kuratsuchi nodded as Naruto continued to laugh about the story. He tried to explain how much he enjoyed it through his laughing fit. I can just see you one-upping that poor kid. Sounds like something I would have done. Kuratsuchi rubbed her fingers against his neck. Are you comparing yourself to me, hero? Naruto held her wrist tenderly. Is that so wrong? He opened his mouth wide as he spoke. I am the greatest shinobi to ever exist after all. Isn't that right, Kurone? Oh, no you didn't. She giggled as she sat on top of him and kissed him passionately. It did not take long after that for clothes to be thrown aside and for the two to be intimately intertwined with each other. They allowed their bodies to talk now and they reveled in their love. The moonlight painted them in a still atmosphere that could only be described as beautiful. The next morning involved a pleasant change in routine. Mei was making breakfast when Naruto and Kuratsuchi came downstairs. Mitsui was seated at the dining table, looking over a scroll. Naruto was the first to comment on the peculiarity of the sight. What's the occasion, Mei? Mei beamed at the couple. Nothing in particular. I just wanted to cook this morning. My schedule is rather free today, so I thought treating all of you would be a nice change of pace. Naruto licked his lips and rushed to the table. Well, you don't see me complaining. Kuratsuchi thanked Mei and took her seat next to Naruto. Breakfast included rice with raw egg and some fresh fish with a side of miso soup. It was not ramen, but Naruto found himself asking for seconds because of the quality of the meal. Mitsui ate a substantial portion of the food herself, to which Kuratsuchi had told her not to eat too much. As Naruto shoved a serving of rice into his mouth, he turned to Mei. Did you sleep well, Mei? Mei smiled cheerfully. Yes, I did. A playful glint radiated from behind her gorgeous locks. Did you? Naruto gulped down his rice and averted his eyes. He was not going to go down that road. Yep, Kuratsuchi saved him from any more embarrassment by stepping in. We should do something fun today, Mei. You did say you were free, right? Suddenly, Mei's expression changed to excitement. Oh yes. That sounds wonderful. We could go to the beach or go on a nice nature hike. She jumped a little in her seat as a better idea hit her. We could even go to a beautiful resort on a nearby island. I could ask Chojuro to watch the village for a few days. Naruto deadpanned. You'd really extend your availability to several days, just like that? Mei waved her hand and puffed out her cheek. Now, Naruto. It's been so long since I've had some rest and relaxation. Mei looked over to Mitsui for some support. Wouldn't that be nice, little one? Mitsui blinked as she took a sip of tea. What about training, Nei-san? Mei laughed daintily. Oh, my dear, as a woman, there are so many things that I must teach you and not all of them involve training. How to relax is one skill that should not be neglected. Do you not agree, Kuratsuchi? Kuratsuchi fidgeted in her seat. Truth be told, she had forgotten the last time she had allowed herself to properly relax. She usually pushed herself too much, or let her worries keep her from enjoying herself. Naruto had changed most of that, however, and she had learned how to enjoy every moment to its greatest extent when she was with him. She supposed a trip to a resort would be nice. Yes, Mei's right. What do you think, Naruto? Naruto took his chopsticks and tapped them on his cheek. He decided to forget his initial behavior on the matter and focused in on the rich benefits. He had a rather comical look on his face as he thought about it. Will there be ramen? Mei's eyes lighted up. There is an exquisite ramen stand at the resort. Naruto grinned as he set his empty bowl on the table. I'm in. With that, the four friends began to pack up their belongings. Mei quickly made arrangements for 4 at the resort with a hasty message. Within less than a few hours, preparations were finished and the small group were at the village gate. Mei was jubilant as she hopped ahead of everyone else. She had asked for no escorts, seeing as Naruto himself was suitable protection by himself. She turned around ahead of them as she passed the gate. Just you wait, my friends. The resort has a beach that makes the very heavens jealous and the water is so pure that it's like staring into a sapphire. Oh, and the food. Don't even get me started on the food. Mei continued on her tangent as the others could only smile sheepishly. Kuratsuchi felt bubbly herself due to Mei's antics. The Mizukage certainly enjoyed luxury and her excitement was rubbing off on the dark-haired Kunoichi. Some time to unwind fully and allow her mind to take a break from her serious matters would be gratefully welcomed. It seemed her life was full of drama recently, and it would be best for her to forget about all of that for a little while. Unfortunately, the world had different intentions. All of a sudden, a Kirinin ran from the village gates, yelling at the top of his lungs. Wait! Please wait! I have urgent news! Everyone stopped in their tracks to look back at the Kirinin. Mei stepped past the rest of the group and folded her arms in an annoyed fashion. What is it? The young shinobi was gasping for air and holding his knees in exhaustion. Whether his fatigue was from running so hard or the urgency of the news was uncertain. The news came out in barely coherent breaths. News, from IWA, Kuratsuchi-san, father, Katsuchi, mission failed, in critical condition, Hokage asks for immediate presence. Kuratsuchi's perfect world seemed to become addled then. Everything started to spin and she was not sure where she was standing anymore. The only thing that was stable was the hand that held her up. A hero's warm hand keeping her from falling into the abyss that never seemed to leave her.